Okay, let's go on. We yesterday we spoke about the Levium, and now let's go on to the. We talked about the waving also, how the waving was a miracle, and let's go on to Perek Tes Pasuk Tes Vav 9:15. Okay. On page, page 780. Okay. Page 780, about right in the middle of the page by that big white space over there. So it says like this, V'yom ha'kibes ha'mishkan, on the day that Hashem put up the Mishkan, Kisa he'onan es ha'mishkan la'ol eidus, the cloud covered the Mishkan, Uva erev, in the evening, Yeh al Mishkan kimare eish ad boker. In the evening, it was like the appearance of fire. So you have this Mishkan and the Mishkan, the tabernacle, has a cloud over it in the morning, and then the appearance of fire at night. So if you take a look at Rashi over here, Rashi says that, the next pasuk. Kain yeh tamid. That's how it always was. He'anan yichasenu, the anan covers it up. Umare eish laila. And there's an appearance of fire at night. So you have this pretty strange occurrence on a regular basis in the midbar. You have this occurrence on a regular basis of a cloud being replaced at night by a pillar of fire. Now this is happening day after day. It is happening, if you're not a believer when you see that, I mean, you got some serious issues over here. This is happening on a regular basis. There's a cloud during the day, and there's a pillar of fire at night. So one of the ideas over here is that the Mishkan represents every individual. Every one of us is a Mishkan. Our home is a Mishkan. 780 and right in the middle of the page. So during the day there's a cloud of glory, and at night there's a fire. So one of the ideas here is that every Jew is a Mishkan. Every Jew is we ourselves are a Mishkan, and we see that in the beginning of Parsha's Truma, where it says Vasu li Mishkan, they shall make a Mishkan for me v'shachanti b'socham, and I will dwell in them. That each one of us should make ourselves a dwelling place for Hashem's presence. So each Jew is considered a Mishkan. We have two periods in our life on a regular basis. There's when things are going well. I don't mean necessarily religiously well. Just, it could be in school, it could be in business, it could be in any area of life. There are times where things are going well and times where things are challenging. That person's facing various ordeals and various frustrations. When things are going well, we call it daytime. Daytime is when things are going well. Night is always symbolic. We even know that night is symbolic with the exile. Night is the exile. The exile is called the dark night. And it's always nighttime is when things are bleak. I've told you many times that when you're married, Amir Hashem, and the reason I talk about marriage a lot is because number one, it's going to be something that you're going to be doing, and number two, it's going to be the most important thing in your life that you're going to be doing, and it's also going to be the most challenging thing in your life that you're going to be doing. It's going to be the best thing in your life that you're going to be doing, but it's also going to be the most challenging thing in your life because it's a 24 hours a day of commitment. 24 hours a day. It's not only when you're at home, and it's not only when you're in each other's company. It's even when you're away from home. So you could be in situations in life where things are going well, that's daytime. When things are not going well, it's night. In the physical world, when do you feel closer to Hashem? You feel closer to Hashem when you're riding the waves nicely, or do you feel closer to Hashem when you're underwater a little bit, when you're gasping for air? So the human nature is such that we get easily be distracted by prosperity and blessing. A person's got a lot of money and a person's got good health, and you kind of enjoy life. That's daytime. And that's when the cloud covers you covers the human being as the Mishkan. We're covered by a cloud. The cloud means that we're in a little bit of a fog. That's symbolically what the cloud is. We're a little bit of a fog, because the connection between us and God is a little bit it's not a get krisus, it's not totally severed, but it's the connection is a little looser. At night, the fire starts burning. At night, when Jews are under the gun, then the fire starts burning. I remember thinking, if you walk into your average shul, let's say you walk into a shul, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in New Jersey, you walk into a shul, you're going to see some people davening nicely, some people kind of like, maybe chit-chatting a little bit. Yeah, some people may be dozing a little bit in the shul. What would you expect to find in a cellar somewhere in Russia in 1970 where you got 12 refuseniks who've gotten together to daven at risk of going to Siberia if they get caught? How much chit-chat are you going to find in that minyan? How many guys in the minyan are going to be talking about sports results or politics? And how much Kiddush club is there going to be? And not too much. If they're already I'm not risking Siberia to go talk about the stock market. I'll risk Siberia in order to daven. That I'm willing to do. That's what it means over here, that during the day, there's a cloud covering the Mishkan. That each one of us as a Mishkan, there's a cloud covering us. They can become a little bit, take things for granted, kind of happy-go-lucky Judaism. Uva'erev, but at night, yal Mishkan Mari Eshkamari Shaboka. Then there's going to be a flame. Then there's a fire. The fire burns intensely. And when you read, people always ask about the Holocaust. Various things. If you read a book about the Jews who maintained their Judaism in the Holocaust, then you'll see what a fire is. A Jew who refused to eat any sort of non-kosher food, even under the most dire circumstances of starvation. A Jew who they did everything they can to daven during the Holocaust. The famous story with Rabbi, who was it? Was it I think it was the Kloisenberger Rebbe. The Kloisenberger Rebbe was the one who went he himself lost a wife and 11 children. He was a big Rav. He lost a wife and 11 children. The book just came out from the Art Scroll, by the way, about the life of the Kloisenberger Rebbe. I've read many of the Gedolim books, and they were all unbelievable people. I've never read anybody read about like him. He's off the charts. He lost a wife and 11 children. He was in Auschwitz. He was on the death march. He then, when they got what are they called, after the war, the refugee camps. He set up in the refugee camps. He set up shuls. He set up schools. He set up that. He set all that up. That was in Europe. Came to Israel, built an entire community in Netanya. If you've heard of Laniado Hospital. Laniado Hospital was built by the Kloisenberger Rebbe. He built an entire community. He built an entire system of learning Gemara, finishing Shas within three years, and all of which he had a fund and fundraise and everything else. And he himself knew the entire Torah, had it on his fingertips. It was it's an unbelievable story. So the Kloisenberger Rebbe is an example of somebody during the war. He was once walking around. They saw him towards the evening on Shabbos walking through the camp, asking if anybody has an extra onion peel, just a peel from an onion. Why did he want a peel from an onion? Because there is a minhag. People have a minhag. Did you ever hear of something called tzibula? Tzibula is egg and onion that people eat on Shabbos, usually at Shalosh Shudas. There's a minhag to eat an egg and onion mixture. I personally don't. But I don't like eggs, but there's an egg and onion. Where this minhag comes from, interesting enough, is this week's Parsha. Later on, when it talks about the mun had all tastes in it, right? But one of the tastes that it didn't have eggs. It didn't have what do you call it? Onion. Man did not, or garlic. So there's a minhag that on Shabbos you get these extra tastes in there for whatever the minhag was. He was looking for an onion in the camps in Auschwitz, walking around asking for anybody if they had an onion peel, because he wanted to fulfill the custom of tzibula. Even a custom he wouldn't forfeit. He wouldn't sacrifice it. So what happened? So he was after he got out of the war, they were in the refugee camps, and he got a minyan together. And see the amazing thing, you see how Hashem works. Nobody could say to him, he was gathering Jews together to daven. Nobody could say, listen, after what I went through, I don't daven. Because whatever anybody else went through, he went through it. And in many cases worse. He lost his entire family, was in Auschwitz, was in the death march. So nobody could say to him, well, if you knew what I went through. He knew what everybody went through. And he never compromised an iota. So he was getting a bunch of people together to daven. And he was putting together a minyan. There was one older man. He said to this man, would you like to daven with us? He says, no, I don't daven anymore. He said, why not? He said, because I was in the camp, there was one prisoner who had a sitter. And anybody who wanted to daven, he wouldn't let them use the sitter unless they gave him their day's rations, their 150 grams of bread or whatever it was. Unless they gave him their day's rations of food, he wouldn't let them use the sitter. If that's how a Jew behaves, I'm not davening. So the Kloisenberg Rebbe said to him, you're right, what he did was inappropriate, but why are you looking at him? Why don't you look at the people who are willing to give up their day's rations to daven, to use the sitter? All right? Oh, good shot, yeah. Well, yeah, crunch, right? So the guy got up and he went and davened with him. Where's that come from? Where? I'm not talking about him. Where do people give up their bread to daven? That's the fire of devotion that comes out at night. That's what the Torah is talking about. That's the first idea over here. First idea over here, there's a mari'esh, cloud during the day, and there's a flame at night, number one. Number two, I want you to look, this is a little more subtle. Look at the difference between Pasuk Tes Vav and Pasuk Tes Zayin. It's an interesting, and if it doesn't even apply literally in this case, it certainly applies in human nature. Let's read the psukim again. Uvayom hakim es hamishkan kisa ha'anan es hamishkan la'oloidus. On the day he put up the Mishkan, the cloud covered it. Uva erev yal hamishkan kimare eish ad boker. Now, what does the word kimare eish translate to, gentlemen? How would you translate kimare eish? Like the appearance of fire. There was a cloud during the day, and like the appearance of fire. Look at the very next pasuk. Kaini atami, that's how it always was, consistently. Ha'anan yechasenu, the cloud covered it. Umare eish, in the appearance of fire at night. The vision of the mare eish. It doesn't say the second pasuk kimare eish. It only says mare eish. See the difference? Only a chaf. There's one letter difference between the two. One says kimare eish, and then it says mare eish. So one of the commentaries says, what's the Torah trying to teach us over here? And if it doesn't apply literally in this particular case, so it certainly applies in life experience. Maybe hand the son a chumash over there. What is it? Page 780. Thanks, Shai. So the answer is, imagine the first time you see it. I'd say you're the Jews in the desert, and there's a Mishkan. By the way, I wanted to mention before, when I said each person is a Mishkan, right? Each one of us is a Mishkan. Our homes are also a Mishkan. Your home is supposed to be a miniature Mishkan too. And there's a very interesting question. Where do you put a mezuzah? And when you put a mezuzah on your front door, where do you put it? Right. On the right side, going in or going out? Going in. What is the mezuzah? What is it's a mitzvah to put up a mezuzah. It's a Torah command to put up a mezuzah. What is the benefit of putting up a mezuzah? What are we told? Protection. There's protection in the home. So it's an interesting question. Do you need more protection in your home or do you need protection outside? I would put the mezuzah on the right side on the way out. Most people don't get mugged in their house. Where would you put the mezuzah? You put the mezuzah on the right side on the way in or on the right side on the way out? Why are you putting it on the right side on the way in? Almost like saying, well, we need protection in the home. What's the answer? The answer is if you're protected in your home, you'll be protected outside. If you build the right type of home, then you don't, and certainly for spiritual dangers. Spiritual dangers doesn't start outside, it starts in my own home. If my home is fortified, if my home is strong, I can't avoid going out on the street. Can't avoid riding the trains in summer in Israel where people have confused. People think that there's a lot of sand and water around there because they're dressed like the beach. Right? You can't avoid being there. What can you do? You have to do the best you can and not look. But if you're fortified enough in your home, you're fortified enough internally, you can fight the battle. You can fight the good fight. So the danger, first of all, let's clean up the home. Make sure the home is strong. If the home is strong, then I'm ready. I'll be strengthened. I go out on the street. The street is only a danger, and the same thing applies to your children. You raise your children in our society where you got all the various temptations left, right, and center. It all begins in the home. Give the strength in the home. Then hope they can fight the battle outside. The children, the adults also, everywhere, all got to fight the battle. That's the idea of the mezuzah. Okay. So one of the commentators said like this: what was their impression the first time they saw the? Imagine you're the Jews. We're the Jews in the desert. We build the Mishkan, and all of a sudden, there's a cloud during the day. We're like, wow, cool. Oh, a cloud. And all of a sudden it's getting late, and we're davening mincha. And after mincha we daven Ma'ariv. Baruch Hu es Hashem, Aleinu l'shabeach, Baruch Hu es Hashem, whoosh, all of a sudden a fire over the Mishkan. What would you? Whoa! That looks like a fire. That's what my impression would be, right? Wow, it's like a fire. And then it happens the second day, it's a fire. You lost the like a fire. That means you could even take that for granted. Even that could be taken for granted. You could go from Kimare Eish, Zawi, to Mare Eish. I don't know that it happened to them, but that's what the Torah is teaching us could happen to us. Everything in life could be taken for granted. I told you, the first time you put on tefillin, how did you feel? Yeah, tefillin, right? I'm feeling it, right? After a while, I don't remember if I'm taking on or putting them off. You could take anything for granted in life. We could take our health for granted in life. Take our parnasa. A guy goes to work, makes money. He gets overpaid. That's the definition of a good job, by the way. You're getting paid a lot more than you yourself believe you deserve. That's a great job, right? That's the best job in the world, and you take it for granted. One day they're going to find out that you're even less qualified than they think. And one day they may discover that. And you take it for granted. That's the Mari Eish. A person is capable of taking things for granted. Even fire over a Mishkan, a person could end up taking for granted. That's what the Torah is teaching you. And obviously the most important thing is not to take people for granted. Even you something take relatives or your parents you take for granted, your wife, your spouse, your children, you can take people for granted too. Don't take anything nothing's for granted in life. No sure things. I heard, by the way, about this guy in New York. He's a rabbi. And this African-American woman stops him on the street. She says to him, you're a rabbi, right? He says, yeah. He goes, can you check my mezuzah? So he thinks he didn't hear. He said, excuse me? She says, yeah, I have a mezuzah. I know you think it's strange because I'm not Jewish. But I have Jewish friends, and they told me, I live alone, and my friends told me that there's something that Jews have called a mezuzah, and if you put it on the front door, so then you're protected. If you put the mezuzah on your front door, then you're protected. So I put up a mezuzah and they told me they have to have your mezuzah checked twice every 7 years by a rabbi. I know you're a rabbi. I'd like to know if you could check my mezuzah. The guy's like wondering, what the heck is going on? So he goes, okay. He says, okay, where do you live? So he goes up to her apartment. And on the front door, sure enough, she's got a mezuzah. So he's got a little screwdriver, he unscrews the plastic case, he takes it off, there's nothing inside. So he says to her, well, when you bought this here mezuzah, was there something inside? She says, yeah, but I couldn't read them instructions, so I threw them away. Right? So apparently it's a true story. The problem is that it's true for many Jews. That's the problem. Many Jews have only kept the externals and they've thrown away the instructions. That's the problem. They've kept the externals of Judaism, but they've thrown away the instruction manual for Judaism. So that's okay. Now let's go on. Take a look at Pasuk Yud Zayin. Now watch this. Ulefihe olos ha'onan me'ala oel, and you got a picture of this, gentlemen. When the cloud would lift off, v'acharechen yisu b'nei Yisrael, the Jewish people would camp. Uve'makom asher yishkan ha'onan, and where the cloud would stop, sham yachanu b'nei Yisrael. That's where they would camp. The cloud would move. The entire Jewish camp, about 2.5 million people, would travel. And then wherever the cloud would stop, they'd build the Mishkan again, reassemble the Mishkan, and they would camp out again. But how did it work? Al pi Hashem yisu b'nei Yisrael, al pi Hashem yechu. By the word of Hashem, that's how they would travel, and that's how they camp. Kol yemei asher yishkon ana al Mishkan yachanu. I'm going to read about 3 more psukim. Uveharicha onan al Mishkan yomim rabim, if the cloud stayed on the Mishkan, hovering over for many days, Vishamru b'nei Yisrael es mishmeres Hashem, that's where they would guard, that's where they would camp out and serve Hashem. V'lo yisau, they wouldn't travel. V'yesh asher yiyah onim yomim mispral, because there's sometimes where it'd only be there for a few days. Al pi Hashem yachanu, by Hashem's word they camp, v'al pi Hashem yisau, they travel. V'yesh asher yiyah onan me'erev ad boker, sometimes it'd only be there from evening to morning. V'nala onan b'boker v'nasau, and then the cloud would lift off and they would go. O yomam v'layla v'nala onan v'nasau. O yomayim, a day, o chodesh, o yamim, beharicha al mishkan lishkan of yachnu b'nei Yisrael v'lo yisau uve'alo. So the Torah is pretty repetitious here. The Torah keeps saying, well, and then again it sums it up. Al pi Hashem yachnu v'al pi Hashem yisau. Es mishmeres Hashem shemaru al pi Hashem biad Moshe. Hashem determined when they go. How does he determine? The cloud starts moving. And how often did the cloud move? Unpredictable. Now, put yourself in their position now. How many kids did each family have? Well, if they were giving birth to 6 at a time, and if you make a calculation, there was one firstborn for every 23 kids. That's how the numbers, 22,000 firstborns, 600,000, the numbers that do the math. So there's one firstborn for every 23. Those are some nice sized families. And now, you get one of the most, they say that there are two, the second biggest trauma, obviously the biggest trauma in life is chas v'shalom, somebody passes away. The second biggest trauma in life is moving. That's what I said, the second biggest trauma in life is moving. You got to move from one house to another, move all your stuff. It's a major trauma. Here, the trauma is added. A, you don't know when you're moving. You pitch tents, and you could be moving in a year, you could be moving in 6 months, you could be moving in a couple of days. You don't even know when you're moving. And every morning you got to get up and look, hey, is that cloud? What's with the clouds? No, clouds, skies are clear today. Oh no, that means we're moving, right? And you don't know. You got all these kids, and and the worst part is, so it's one thing if you move from one house, you move to another house. Well, this has a nicer kitchen, and it's got a backyard with a swimming pool. Okay, I know why I moved. Where did they move to here? They moved from one spot in the wilderness to another spot in the wilderness. What was so great about this spot? What was wrong with the other spot? There were snakes there and there are snakes here. What's the difference? And you're moving, and you don't know when you're moving. What's the Torah teaching you over here? Right? You're a guy. That's what it was. A guy told me that he used to go. I had a guy here once. He told me that he used to go on vacation with his father. A guy from Arizona. He said they would buy 10,000 rounds, and they would take what's it called one of those trailer homes, a miniature trailer home. What are those? What are they called? What are they called? A Winnebago, a mobile home. One of the little mobile homes. They'd buy 10,000 rounds, and they would drive 60 miles into the deserts of Arizona. And they would supply themselves with food and everything else. He told this is a vacation. He went on with his father, and they would shoot. For a week, they would shoot. I said, what did you shoot? He said, anything that moved. That's what he told me. Anything that moved. Snakes, whatever he had out there. You're in the desert over here. What's the difference? What's a nafkamina? If you're over here or you're over here, you move from one place to another. You understand what an act of faith this is? That the Jewish people have to pick up their tents, fold it up. Let's go, Chaim. Let's go, Zalmi. Bela, forget it. Just come on. Let's go. Everybody's got to start moving. With your 12 or 14 or 16 kids, or 28 kids, or 36 kids if she gave birth 6 times. How do you like that? But Mommy, I didn't have breakfast. You will have them later. Let's go. Could you imagine? And you got to go move around. Now, I want to tell you something. I don't know if you've probably never traveled with children. I have. The last time I did it was 26 years ago. We traveled with 5 children from Israel to Columbus, Ohio with a connecting flight. And we traveled back. And I said to my wife, 2 words. Never again. It just wasn't going to happen. You have no idea what it's like. The best place to be with kids on the plane. Because on the plane, they're not going anywhere. All that can happen on the plane is they'll bother other people. That's fine. Right? That I have no problem with. But you get to an airport, or you get to, what do you call it? I had my oldest son my son was 8, and we had a 6-month, and there were 5 kids. The youngest was 6 months. It was not relaxing. In the words, when we get to Belgium, we had our connecting flight was in Belgium, so we get into the airport, and we hear an announcement: parents, please keep your children near. There have been a spate of kidnappings. Kidnappings like that. Yeah, but our reaction was, where are they? So somebody said I made a mistake. We should have put the kids on the plane unattended, and me and my wife sit up front somewhere. Let somebody else worry about them. It's unbelievable difficult. It's unbelievable difficult. The Torah is teaching over here a lesson in bitachon. What's bitachon? Bitachon is they got to trust God. He's moving us through it. By the way, this applies not only then, this applies through all of our exiles. So we were thrown out of Spain, and they went to England and got thrown out of England, and got thrown out of France, and got thrown there, and the country hasn't thrown us out. All of our exile, we've been moving around constantly. So the Torah is teaching you over here, the whole thing is a lesson in bitachon Hashem, because there's no rhyme and reason. There's no rhyme and reason. I have a student from the other yeshiva, who just got married, I think 2 days ago. He had gone home, and he developed some sort of infection, and they treated it, and he was supposed to come back to Israel, and then again he had a relapse, and they had to treat it again, and something kept happening, and he couldn't get back to Israel. So what happened in the meantime? He got engaged. He just got married a couple of days ago. So somebody, you see, why is Hashem keeping me here? Why isn't Hashem letting me go back to get back to where I'm supposed to get back to? And I don't know that that's the answer. But you just see in life that it doesn't follow our logic. And then next thing you know, he's getting married. He got a shidduch, and he wasn't even looking for it. He was looking to come back to Israel. So Hashem said, no, I want you to get married now. Then you'll run away to Israel. But first, I want to go first. First, you want to go. So we don't understand how Hashem's doing it. But that's what the Torah is. That's the lesson. But you have to think about what this took out of the people. You just unloaded, and the next morning, it's the clouds moving again. What was wrong with me here? So there are meforshim that say. There are commentaries that say that the reason the clouds would move is if the Jewish people, their job was to purify spiritually all these various locations, whatever that means, Kabbalistically, to purify these spots. If the Jewish people stepped out of line, if somebody did an Aveira or something, at that point said, okay, fold up the tents, let's go. And the clouds would move. But it didn't consult, there was no agreement with the people. It was just, you are now being instructed, let's go. Okay, now I want to show you something else. Take a look at, where is it? By the way, the other lesson over here is that we always have to be prepared when it comes to serving. You have to be prepared. You couldn't really get really relaxed. It's every day, okay, what's now? We're always on duty. In serving God, we're always on duty. There's no such thing as I'm off duty now. There's no such thing, okay, 24 hours off of Judaism. There's no such thing. There's always a mincha lurking. Right? You ever notice that? There's always a mincha waiting around you. Just when you're ready to really have a good time, somebody says, oh, 1 second, Mariv, I was just at a wedding last night. Hey, you go to a wedding, it's like going to a shtibel. Yeah, I got to the wedding, and they had the chuppah right before the chuppah. Mincha, who didn't daven mincha? I got a minyan for mincha. Right, daven mincha. Right, next thing you know, they have the chuppah. You eat your first course. Everybody was now davening marv. And I went there to eat and dance. Next thing you know, you're davening more than anything else. You may as well just move in. Wait till the next wedding and catch shachris. It's what. My wife once said to me, a frum woman can never relax. She goes out with her husband. You go out for the evening. You sit down in a pizza shop or whatever, and all of a sudden, oh, by the way, I got to catch a Mariv. I'll be back in a few minutes. You book out for Mariv. There's always something lurking. That's how it is in Judaism. Oh, got to run, daf yomi. By the way, that's the ace in the hole. If you're ever with your wife's family, oh, got that Marv, sorry, and book out. Then you come back 2 days later. And what happened? Oh, Mashiv Haruach, Umari the Gasha, took But it's true though. There's always something. We got a bench with a certain amount of time. Right. We're always on call. We're always on. There's never a time when you're just off. Even if you travel, let's say you go camping. You guys went to Kruger, right? You go to Kruger. What's the first thing a Jew packs when you go traveling? It's the first thing you pack. First thing is your tefillin. First thing you pack is your tefillin. And you got to have a sitter. And you got to have a talis. And you got to have a bencher. And you got to take some kosher food. And you got to take a Gemara. You're going to be learning. Next thing you know, you get on the plane. You got a suitcase as a carry-on. This is just my carry-on. This is my carry-ons. I haven't even gotten to my suitcase. And if it's Hanukkah, you got to bring your menorah with you. If it's Pesach, you got to have some matzahs with you. If it's Chassidish, you got to have a tzarayat for your shtreimel. It's a whole bag. The Jews are traveling. You can always tell the Jews at the airport. You can always tell the Jews at Wrigley Field. The Frum kids. You can always tell the Frum kids at Wrigley Field. Because everybody at Wrigley Field on the summer, and you go to see the baseball game, they're basically wearing shorts. Shorts and shoes. That's basically, the Frum kids all got button-up shirts with baseball caps on. It's always the Frum kids have baseball caps because they took off our yarmulke because everybody know we're Jewish. And they're the ones in April are crunching matzah in the ballpark. Everybody else is eating hot dogs, and we're crunching matzah. Right? You can tell they are in Oz with a bag. Because they can't buy anything at the ballpark. So you have your kosher food. Can't go anywhere without your equipment. So that's what the Torah is telling you. We always have to be ready. Jew always has to be ready. Okay, now watch this. In the Torah says in Pasuk 782. Period. Let me just find it. Yeah. No, I skipped something. One second. I skipped something that I wanted to get to. Just give me 1 second to find it. Where is it? The Levium. Look back. Go back for a second. Go back. I'll tell you where to. This is extremely important. It's on page. Go back to Perek Ches. Keep the place over here at 782. Bottom of 776. Very, very important concept. Bottom of page 776. V'daber Hashem al Moshe Lemor. Zos asher la'Levim. These are the rules. Everybody see that? 3 lines at the bottom. These are the rules that apply to the Levim. Mi ben chomesh ve'esrim shana v'mala, from 25 years and on, yovo litzvo tzava be'ol moed. From 25 years and on, he's going to serve. Umi ben chamishim shana, at 50 years old, yoshuv mitzvah ha'avoda, he no longer does the heavy work. V'lo yavod od, he doesn't serve anymore. V'sheres es echav be'ol moed, he serves lishmor mishmeres, to guard, do the watching. Va'avoda lo yavod, kachatasa levim yishra. That's what you do for Levim. Take a look at Rashi here. Rashi and Pasuk Chav Hei. That means that the Levim, 25, they started at 25, took 5 years of training. At 30, they entered the service. They were carrying the heavy beams. They're carrying the things around. They sang. They did a lot of the services of the Levim. And then at 50, they were semi-retired. At 50, they no longer did the heavy labors. Peak strength is physical strength is between the ages of 30 and 50. At 50, it starts to decrease. Take a look at Rashi on 778, the second line from the top in the right column. V'lo yavod od, avodas masa bakosef, he no longer carries things. Aval chozerhu, he goes back, l'neilas she'arim, to lock the gates. Lashir, to sing, v'litanar, to load up the wagons. But he no longer does the service. So I saw one of the commentaries says, you have a very interesting phenomenon. When people are young and energetic, they're all ready to go, they're ready to rip, which is a good thing. You have to be ready, you have to be energized, you have to accomplish. When a person hits 50, so what is their job? Their job is to close the gates. That means a person who's a little older has the life experience and the wisdom to know when to close the gates a little bit. I mean, sometimes you have a really good idea and you're really excited about it, really enthusiastic about it. It's always good to ask an elderly Torah scholar because they got the Torah wisdom and they've got the life experience to know, don't be hasty over here. Close the gates. Time to calm down a little bit. And when a person is younger, so a person wants to accomplish, a person wants to leave their mark on the world, a person wants to be noticed and counted, and a person gets a little older, they understand, just close the gates a little bit. Your fever is a little too high right now. Close it up a little bit. That's the lesson from the Levium. Okay, now back to where we were. The Moshe Rabbeinu has trumpets, page 782. There are trumpets. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe lemor, aseh lecha shtei chatzotzos kesef, miksha taseh osa. Miksha means they're beaten out of one piece of metal. V'hoyu lecha lemikra ha'edel l'masas ha'machanos. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to use these trumpets when he wants to call for an assembly, or he wants to get the people moving, and get the people moving. So he's got trumpets. Now, the Torah describes what the patterns are, how you summon all the people, what sounds he blows to summon all the people, what sounds he blows just to summon the elders, what sounds he blows to get the people moving. But then, at the end, what does it say? It says, one second, let me just get the pasuk over here. So, Yud, Beis. Look at pasuk Beis. Aseh lecha, 4 lines from the top. 5 lines from the top. V'daber Hashem al Moshe Amar, Aseh lecha shtei chatzos kesef. Make for yourself 2 trumpets. Look at Rashi. Rashi says in the 2nd line of Rashi, Aseh lecha, ata oseh, you make the trumpets, umishtamesh behem, velo acher. Nobody else is going to use these trumpets. That means after Moshe died, these trumpets were nignaz. They're put in the gediza. They're buried. Nobody else. The next leader, Yoshua, make your own trumpets. Don't use Moshe's trumpets. Why not? Why not? So one of the standard themes here is that in every generation, every leader, you guys had a rabbi in your shul, right? Some of your fathers are the rabbi at a shul. And there's a rav of a shul. The rabbi of a shul is a very difficult job. Being a rabbi of a shul is not an easy job. And there are a lot of things that need to be dealt with. You might want to strengthen the observance, you want to strengthen the minyan, you may want to raise money. You need to know the mood of the people, and you need to know what's the main message for the people. What is the issue today? The trumpet sound of one leader is not the same trumpet sound of another leader. And that I could tell you has changed in the world of outreach. When the Baal Tshuva movement started back in the late 60s, early 70s, people were sophisticated and they were searching for some sort of meaning. And people were looking very much more philosophically oriented. You can't compare that world to a world of smartphones. You can't compare that world to a world of mass communication. In our world, I found people are only looking for sanity. There used to be that people are looking for meaning. They're looking for, today people are just looking for sanity because the world's insane. The world's nuts. In the 70s, there was no such thing as justifying various deviant behaviors. And today, if you criticize it, you're the criminal. So things have changed. Parents used to be, what was the big issue? That their kids shouldn't smoke cigarettes. Oh, they're smoking. Smoking. Nowadays, cigarettes? Who's even thinking about cigarettes? Who's even thinking? You got so many other issues that you got to deal with as a parent. Especially in the religious cigarettes. At one time they used to talk about yeshiva boys wasting time. They're supposed to be learning Torah. They wasted time playing chess or reading newspapers. When's the last time any of you played chess? When's the last time any of you read a newspaper? The issues are completely different issues. And you got to know you got to save your bullets. Where should I make a fuss? Even as a parent, you have to know that. Is that really the thing that's the main issue in the kid's life right now because he's smoking cigarettes? Or are you a lot more concerned because he's hanging around with guys who are going to end up in jail for counterfeiting? Now, which one? You can't fight all the battles. So you have to know that. I knew a guy who ended up in jail for counterfeiting. Happens. It's good parnasa, right? Unless you get caught. If you get caught, you're 25 years, no parole. Do you know that? The worst crime you can commit is you get a worse sentence for counterfeiting than you do for murder.
What is counterfeiting?
Helping the government print money. It's real money that looks fake or fake money that looks real. I'm not sure which one. Why is counterfeiting so bad? Because you are a threat to the entire society. If you destroy the currency, you destroy the entire society. Then a lot more people are going to get killed. I think, if I'm not mistaken, if one, why, do you ever wonder, why doesn't Russia print dollars? They probably do, right? But why don't they just print, why don't the Chinese print dollars? Why doesn't somebody print why don't the French print German marks or English pounds? What's that?
To make the other
Why, yeah, why not do it? British pounds are worth more than French francs right now, so print some pound, or whichever one is worth more. I think, if I'm not mistaken, to print another country's money is considered an international declaration of war. I think if there's some sort of international agreement. Wait, you don't think they have the technology? They can print their own money, so why can't they figure out how to print dollars? I think that's considered an act of war if you print another country. I'm sure they do a little bit. I'm sure the Russians print some dollars left here and there. But if it was mass, what do you call it? That's an act of war. Why? Because you're threatening the entire country's existence. Here, the Torah is telling you, in every generation, the leader, what are the issues that need to be dealt with in our generation? What are the issues that need to be dealt with in the Jewish world? You have an issue. You have the issues of kids who are abandoning Judaism. Kids raised in traditional homes who are going off the deck. You didn't have that 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You didn't have that. That wasn't the issue. You had other issues. You have issues of stance. You have issues. Each generation, each leader has his own sound, his own trumpet. And in some cases, your great-grandparents, my grandparents, grew up in a generation where parents could be very tough with their kids. There was no nonsense. At least they say so. I don't know how good their memories are. In our generation, parents have to be psychologists, chas v'sholom, to yell at your kid. You're being abusive. Not being abusive, I'm being a parent. It's a big difference. You can't yell at your kid once in a while? You never yelled at your spouse? I don't believe you. Every time you yell at your spouse, you're being abusive. That's not abusive, that's marriage. Life is like that. A house where there's nobody ever yells in a house is not a house, it's a cemetery. It's the only place where nobody yells. Right? Of course there's going to be lebedik in the house sometimes. Doesn't mean you got to behave yourself, you got to work on it. But nowadays, you got to get with kid gloves. Everything you got to do gentle with kid gloves. You don't want the kid to get upset with the parents. Call the cops on the parents. That happens. Father says something that threatens the kid because if you touch me, I'm going to call the cops. That happens all the time. So things change. Things change. That's the lesson. And if Moshe Rabbeinu dies, bury those trumpets. All right.